and welcome back to the wedding series. This is episode 3 and today I'm going to be kind of just sitting down, chatting with you guys, basically just talking about the wedding planning process. And I had so many ideas about how I wanted to do this, and I had so many kind of tips and advice and things I have learned along the way so far, even though we're kind of early in the process. But I just already had so many things that I wanted to share with you guys, and so I had to write them all down. And basically in this video I am going to be sectioning it into 3 sections because I have so much advice and they kind of each fall into a certain category. So the first category I'm going to be talking about is basically just planning a wedding on your own. Now this means without a wedding planner. So I know a lot of people actually hire a wedding planner, but we are not, for mainly budget reasons, but also I'm very detail oriented. I want to know everything, but mainly budget reasons. So yeah, the first section I'm going to be kind of talking about ways to help plan it on your own without a coordinator. And then the second section is going to be all about budgeting tips that I have found along the way or that I have heard from somewhere that I feel like would be really helpful to share with you guys. And then of course I have to talk about planning during a pandemic for section 3, because how can I ignore that? I am in the middle of planning a wedding during a global pandemic. So we have to address that, and I'm going to share some encouragement with you guys and kind of share how I am navigating through this crazy time. So we're just gonna hop right into this, into section 1, which is the basically planning everything on your own part. So the first tip that I have for you guys about doing this on your own and starting just the whole planning process without a coordinator can be very daunting, I guess. So my first tip would be for you and your partner to sit down and write 3 things each, so 6 total, but 3 things that are super important to each of you individually. So for the bride, it may be the florals. Like that's one thing she really wants to be amazing on that day and she's really wanting to focus on. Or for the groom, it may be the food. Okay, so he wants like really delicious food, wants the best food ever. So write down 3 things that are really important to you about that day individually. That will kind of help you keep your vision throughout the whole planning process and know what each of each other is really wanting on that day, because they're most likely going to be a bit different. And so that will really help keep both of you involved in the planning process as well. My next tip is to find some common inspiration. So kind of like what I just talked about, but coming together as partners and not just letting one person overtake everything, but really coming together and finding inspiration that you both like. So I know for most girls, we go on Pinterest, and for years we have had a wedding board. I know I have, and along the way I would show Michael some of the things that I liked or that I enjoyed or that I really wanted to kind of encompass on our wedding day. And so I would show him that along the way, some things he didn't like, some things he would like. So just make sure and note that, and at least find a few things that y'all like, whether it's certain colors that you both like or no colors, whether you both are like, no, let's just do everything black and white, whether y'all want an over-the-top wedding or a really simple wedding. That's actually really important that you need to discuss together. So just finding some common inspiration. So since we do not have a wedding planner, and since this section is talking about how to plan a wedding on your own without a coordinator, I have to talk about this because this is the thing that is probably helping me the most and will continue to help me the most along the way. So this is my wedding planning book, and I just picked this up at Barnes & Noble. I believe my mom gifted it to me, I think before we were even engaged, but we knew we were about to get engaged, and my mom just kind of got this for me. And of course I had always wanted some way to have an outside source to help me plan. I know they have a lot of websites like Zola and a couple other ones that really like walk you through it basically like a book does, but for some reason I just wanted a tangible object that I can check things off, because you know me, my lists, and it also can be a really good keepsake that we can look back on. And when I got this, Michael actually really liked the idea when we first started planning on being able to look back at everything and just have it all here. So I will try to link this one down below if I can find it, but yeah, I just picked this up at Barnes & Noble. I know they have a whole wedding section and they had a few different ones, but I mean there's so much stuff in here, and I think the main thing that is going to help me throughout this whole process is each month it breaks it down for you. So it's like 6 months before the wedding, do this. 5 months before the wedding, do this. And that's what I was most stressed about, because not having a wedding coordinator, they know all that. They know the timelines, they know when you should send things out, and I don't. And so I wanted to make sure I at least stuck to the timeline a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this just really breaks it down for you and makes sure you're not missing anything that you haven't thought of. So yes, I definitely suggest getting a wedding planning book, and kind of versus online, because again, it can just be something tangible and you can have it to look back on. So this is probably one of my biggest tips for planning it on your own without a wedding planner. So my next tip was really crucial for Michael and I when starting the planning process. And I didn't quite know where to start, but once I kind of had this idea of this is what I'm gonna do, it truly helped. So the tip is to find your venue and go from there. So of course I had saved so many things on Pinterest and had so many different ideas and even so many different things that I liked. Like some were very different from each other, some kind of inspo and themes were very different from each other. But I knew once we found a venue, then I could start going with the theme, then I could start going with the colors, then I could maybe even find a dress that goes with the venue. And that just really helped us figure out what we're gonna do from there. Because you have to start making decisions, and I know it can be hard at the beginning, but I really wanted us to find a venue first and let everything else fall after that. So if you haven't watched our venue tour video, which I believe was just the last episode in the wedding series, but go watch that because we visit 2 beautiful venues, but you will tell that they're super different in style. And they actually matched 2 styles that I really liked for a wedding. So the first venue, which is the one we actually ended up picking, but that one was a little bit more springtime to me, a little bit more casual, just a little bit more less formal, a little bit more fun. And then the second venue was more stark, more formal, a little bit more elegant even. But yeah, there were just 2 really different ones that I really liked. And I had saved so many dresses even that fell into both categories. But so how do you pick? You know, I didn't want to pick the second venue that was kind of more formal, kind of more stark, and then have a kind of wedding dress that didn't fit that, or vice versa. So I think picking your venue first before you make any really theme inspirational decisions about the wedding, I think that will truly help, because then everything will be cohesive. That was one thing that was really important to me, is I want everything to be really cohesive, go together, and just kind of be seamless. Okay, so I actually got a question about this next tip, and I will admit that it kind of stumped me because I hadn't thought about it much, but I can assume what I'm gonna do. It's a little bit ahead of time to talk about it now, but I'll go ahead and address it since someone asked me about this. But someone asked me what I'm gonna do for day of coordinating. So as I already said, we're not gonna have a wedding planner for the planning process, but a lot of people actually just hire a day of coordinator for the actual day you get married to kind of help the day go seamless. And I really suggest, if that's within your budget, to do that, because I'm sure that would help a lot. But I believe what we're gonna do, because I can guarantee you we're not gonna necessarily get a day of coordinator, but what I believe we are gonna do is when family and friends offer to help, maybe even early on in the planning process or later in the planning process preferably, but if they offer to help, go ahead and take it and say, you know what, we do need someone to help guests sign the guest book, or to make sure that they sign the guest book before they just walk past, or to set gifts in a certain area. Just things like that, like little bitty jobs, I think are important, and we forget about those throughout the day. So if you can really designate someone, a family member, friend, who is willing to help you with each of those jobs, I think that will help the issue. I don't think, you know, nothing's gonna go perfect, but I feel like if you communicate to everyone enough and you take the time to really think about the day, think about the timeline of the day, and make sure that someone is there to help you throughout the day, I think family and friends are more willing to help than you think, and so that will help them kind of feel involved in the wedding day as well. So my last tip with the planning the wedding on your own section without a wedding planner is to just take things as they come. They will not go as you initially planned. We have already had a couple things kind of fall through, and not huge things, but things that just didn't work out, but they actually ended up turning out better. Like, I had found bridesmaids dresses that I was pretty sure I wanted to get, but then something happened with them, or one of them just ended up looking a little bit different, and if one of them didn't go, I couldn't get all of them. So that didn't end up working out, but then I ended up finding 4 new bridesmaids dresses. By the way, I'm having 4 bridesmaids. I haven't announced that, but 4 bridesmaids. So 4 bridesmaids dresses, and I'm just obsessed with them. They're perfect. Maybe in another video I will kind of do a whole video designated to the bridesmaids and the bridesmaids dresses. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's a whole thing in and of itself that I'm like really excited about. So yeah, it just ended up working out perfect when I originally had a different plan. So my tip is to just take things as they come. Things will not go as you plan. Things will not be perfect, but don't forget you're doing this on your own. And I think as long as you try your best, you try to keep it pretty organized and not over stress yourself, then I think it will be fine. And people have come up to me and been like, oh, it's super stressful, right? Planning a wedding. Oh, I bet you're so stressed. And I just don't really like that negative energy, because this is a really short season of your life that you will most likely not be able to do again. And so I'm really trying to enjoy the planning process, because I actually do enjoy things like this. I know some people could care less, and that's completely fine, but I'm like obsessed with it all. So I'm just really trying to have a positive outlook on it, because I won't be able to do this again, and it can get stressful, but just remember that this is a really special gift that you even get to be doing this. Okay, so now we are moving into the budgeting tips portion of this video, and I'm sure this is one of the most exciting ones for people, because of course everyone wants to save money where they can. And so these are just a few tips that I have learned already along the way, and I just want to share them with you guys. So tip number 1, of course, is kind of what I just talked about. Plan the wedding on your own. If you completely could care less and have the budget to do that, and you don't really want to be super involved, hire that wedding planner then. Or hire a day of coordinator if you just want help on that day, like I said. But that will definitely help you save money if you don't hire a wedding planner. So that is my number 1 tip, because I believe in you. You can do this on your own. It doesn't have to be super stressful. You don't have to have a wedding planner because some people say you have to have one. Not true. So this is a tip that I actually have found along the way through the process of the planning. So like I said about that wish list that you and your partner write down, 3 things that are special to you about the wedding day and the wedding planning process, pay attention to those. And so my budgeting tip with that is be willing to spend a little bit more on those things that are important to y'all, and really try to save on everything else. So one of the things that is really important to me about the wedding day is having a really good wedding photographer. So I didn't mind spending a little bit more money on that than maybe I necessarily wanted to, but that was something that was really important to me and made me happy. And then something like florals, which I love flowers and I want them to be beautiful, but I feel like we could do it in a little bit more budget-friendly way than maybe most weddings do. I feel like we can navigate through the florals and figure out how to save on that. Versus a photographer. I would rather put my money into a better photographer or pictures that I like more than having bigger and better flowers. Does that make sense? And then same thing with Michael. Whatever is on his wish list, we can communicate and talk about maybe spending a little bit more money on those and saving in other areas. And then that way you feel like you're getting what's most important to you on that day, and you're communicating about it, and then you're really trying to save in those other areas. So the next tip that I have, which I'm sure you guys know, but it is actually having a wedding on a Friday. Michael and I have decided to do that. It saved us quite a bit of money, and I know for most venues a Saturday versus a Friday is a big difference. So if everything is good with your guests, everything like that, y'all are okay with that, I would suggest doing it on a Friday, because it will save you money probably quite a bit. So the next tip is getting a friend or family member to take your engagement pictures. So my cousin Andre is amazing at taking pictures, and she's kind of just starting out with her photographer journey, and I'm already in love. And she takes a lot of pictures on an actual film camera where it has actual film inside of it. And so I had just been loving what she's been doing, and I decided to go ahead and hire her to do our engagement pictures. And ultimately having a friend or family member take your engagement pictures is going to save you money. Now if you want to splurge and that's something that's super important to you, those engagement pictures, then go ahead, spend a little bit more money on a photographer, and preferably the photographer that's going to do your wedding. I wanted to kind of use the photographer that was going to do our wedding, but it did add quite a bit more to the photography budget, and it was more important to me to have the photographer's photos for the wedding versus the engagement and wedding. I just really wanted them for the wedding, and so hiring a family member or a friend will help you save a little bit money, and it will kind of give you also a unique feel to your photos versus your engagement photos and your wedding photos looking exactly the same by the exact same photographer. It will give you a little bit more versatility. So the next thing that I want to talk about, I'm not sure how many people are aware of how to do save the date. dates, but from what I could see, invitations and save the dates are just kind of overwhelming to me. And of course we haven't done our invitations yet, but we have made our save the dates and I'm super excited about them. Another real quick tip I would suggest, obviously getting your engagement pictures done before you do save the dates, so that you can have a picture to put on the save the date. But yeah, we had found a website called papier.com and we actually made our save the dates ourselves. We literally just uploaded one of our engagement pictures, typed in our date, typed in where it was located, said the formal invitation will follow, and that's what we've ordered. And it is just super simple, and I'm actually going to show you guys because I am obsessed with them. I'm like absolutely in love with them. I'm going to cover up the date just to kind of keep it private for us, but this is the front of the invitation. So it just says Michael and Chloe here, and then it has our date here that I'm kind of covering up. But this is a picture that my cousin Andre took that I'm obsessed with. And this actually is supposed to be meant to look like Polaroid. That's kind of one of the themes for our day, is kind of a Polaroid. And then the back has a little bit more information. It just says save the date, the date of our wedding location, and it says formal invitation to follow. So this is actually super quality paper and it's pretty big. And like I said, we just did it on papier.com. And I think it was very reasonable. From what I had been researching, invitations and save the dates were way more than I had expected. It kind of blew my mind, but these were fairly reasonable. And another tip, don't forget, you do not have to order, like if you have 100 guests, you do not have to order save the dates for 100 guests, because most of the guests are within families. So like for one of Michael's brothers, let's say him and his wife, we're just gonna send them one. We're not gonna send one to his brother, one to his wife, and they even have 2 children. The children aren't gonna get each one. It'd be 1 per family. So think about that. That actually cut about our save the dates in half from our actual guest count, and so that will help you save money too. When I first entered in how many save the dates we needed, it was as many guests as we have, and then I remembered not every single person needs an invitation. It's just 1 per family. So that will definitely help you cut costs as well. My next budget-friendly tip is start a honeymoon fund. And this doesn't have to be one of those websites where you set up a fund and you ask people to send you money. Those are great too. But I mean from the beginning. Now, I don't know if most people discuss they're going to get married years before they actually do, but Michael and I did. And so we knew from mostly the very beginning that we were going to get married. So for years we had a actual little jar and it said like adventure fund on it, and we had been putting cash in it for years. He had one and I had one separately, but we knew that our goal was saving for the honeymoon. So anytime we had a little extra cash, we just stuck it in our jar, and we've done that for about 4 years. And we recently just took out all the cash, deposited it, and now we're planning for a honeymoon, and we were actually able to save up a lot more than we thought we would. And it kind of felt like free money when we were booking those plane tickets, booking those Airbnbs, because it was money we had never really touched or even thought twice about. So yeah, that's a tip. Kind of maybe start setting some honeymoon money aside, because it was really important for us to go ahead and have a honeymoon, whether it be something small or big. We just wanted to make sure we have that special time together right after we get married. So my next tip is again about the bridesmaids dresses, but bridesmaids dresses can be very, very pricey. And I know traditionally the bridesmaids buy their own dresses, so it's not necessarily something you personally have to think about spending your money on. But for me personally, I didn't want my bridesmaids spending a bunch of money, so I was kind of worried about that. So I looked online at dresses versus actual bridal boutiques that carry bridesmaids dresses, because they're multiple hundreds of dollars, and I just felt like there's no need for that. There's so many pretty dresses online, and there's so many dresses that are super, super affordable. I suggest trying to find a bridesmaid's dress for under $100 for each girl. That's what we did. Very doable, and we probably even could have found dresses for less. But I suggest 100 or less, because you know it's going to be pretty nice, not super cheap, but that's also a reasonable price. There's so many options out there, guys, that you do not have to spend $300 for a bridesmaid's dress or ask your bridesmaid to spend $300 for a dress. They're most likely also going to get you a gift and maybe even help pitch in for a bachelorette party, the shower, whatever. So asking them to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars, I don't know, that just didn't sit right with me. I know some people don't necessarily care, and that's completely fine, but for me that just didn't sit right. So I believe that you can find reasonably priced dresses online, and I suggest starting early. because you're buying it online. So we actually ordered all the bridesmaids dresses already. They came in. I tried each one of them on just to make sure there was no weird fit, because you know when you order online, you never know, sometimes things are just super weird. So I tried them all on and tried to see if I think they would fit the girls, and then soon I'm gonna mail them all out to them, and I'm starting out early in case something does fit weird, they need a different size. I can go ahead and order that, and we have plenty of time for that. It is doable to find a reasonable bridesmaid's dress, and I suggest going online because you get way many more options versus going in a boutique type store. So I could talk forever about tips to save money because I feel like there's endless ways, but my last tip is about hair and makeup for the wedding day. So I know there's a lot of controversy around this, and everyone is different, to each their own. But for me, I think we're gonna go ahead and do our own hair, our own makeup. I don't necessarily want to spend, again, hundreds of dollars on someone doing my hair and makeup, and I'm not even sure if I'm gonna like it. I know you can set up trial runs, but most of the time you also have to pay for that. And I just feel like I can do my makeup the best. I know my face the best. I don't even wear that much makeup, and one time when I did get my makeup done, I looked in the mirror and I don't even know who I saw. So I just believe we kind of know our faces the best. So if you're comfortable with doing your own makeup, I completely suggest doing that. I am definitely going to start looking into more products that are long lasting, long wear, obviously, because you're going to be wearing it all day, a little bit more glam than what I usually wear. So I'm going to be doing some research, even spending some money on that, but I'd rather spend money on that and I get to actually keep the makeup, and it will be less than hiring a makeup artist. But yeah, I'd rather spend my money on that, and I'll do little trial runs on myself, and I think I'm going to try to like film that as it gets closer, maybe trying my bridal makeup. But yeah, that's just kind of what I decided to do. And the bridesmaids, I have talked to them about it. Most of them feel comfortable, I think, with doing their own makeup. Again, all of them also don't wear that much makeup. We're all kind of natural gals. We don't wear too much makeup. Some of them are really good at hair, so I feel like we can all help each other out with hair and keep it simple. I don't need some crazy updo. I just want to keep everything simple. So that is also a way to save money, is doing your own hair and makeup if you're comfortable with that. And another thing I will just say about that real quick is that I have seen so many pictures of brides, and the first thing you see when you see a picture of them is the makeup, and it's a lot, and they don't really look like themselves. And that's just something I really want to try not to do on my wedding day. I really want to see a picture and feel like that looks like me. I know my makeup's not going to be perfect because I'm not a professional, my hair might not be perfect, but at least I'll look like myself. You know what I mean? I don't want to feel like I look like someone different. Okay, so lastly, we are on this section about tips of planning a wedding during a pandemic. Sadly, I am talking about that. But there is some pros to that as well, and I will also talk about that. So the first and most important tip is kind of what I already said, but take things as they come. Don't plan for the worst thing possible that could happen, and don't plan for the best thing possible that could happen, because we don't know. Michael and I are planning to get married early 2021, and I know we could wait much longer and the pandemic will probably be a lot less worrisome, but we are ready to get married. We've been doing long distance for years and years and years, so we're just ready to be married. So basically, take things as they come. We can't plan for worse or best, like I said. So Michael and I have already communicated about it, and as things come up, we will plan accordingly. So we're not going to plan for 10% of guests at a event when that's not in place right now. If that happens to come up, then we'll have to deal with that then. But I just didn't want to plan for something that we're not even sure happens, but we have communicated that we're okay with things changing, and we just have to know that during this time things are going to change, probably not end up being exactly as we expect them. So just kind of take it as it comes instead of planning for the worst or planning for the best, if that makes sense. Another tip to kind of help with that is only invite the people you really truly want and kind of have to have there. So talk with your family and who they want there, but then also communicate between your partner and really talk about who do you want most there? Who do you want to not miss that time? So we are actually inviting a little over 100 people, but expecting 100 at most to come. And I feel like that is a fairly smaller wedding, not too small, but it's not a huge blowout wedding. And so I feel like 100 will be able to stick to that, and we might even have a little bit less than that. But just really invite people who you want there. Don't invite so-and-so because you feel like if you invite so-and-so, you have to invite so-and-so. Do who y'all want there. That's all that's gonna matter at the end of the day. And especially with the pandemic, it's kind of an excuse to tell people, hey, we're keeping it small if they ask, to come. Because it's true, you are trying to keep it fairly small. We probably would have stuck around this number whether there's a pandemic or not, but we were a little bit more ruthless on making sure every single person that we were inviting, we really truly want there. My next tip is try to see if your venue has an outside option. So a lot of people already get married outside, so that's great. But we're getting married inside a chapel and it is enclosed. But they have side doors along the chapel that all open up, and then it can be considered an outside venue. So if there ever becomes some crazy regulations again, like there were kind of at the start of this pandemic, where you can only have a certain percentage amount of people there, then you can accommodate to that, because once it's outside, the gathering can become larger. So I will suggest that keep an open mind about any outside options if you are planning on getting married indoors. Yeah, and just keep that in mind, that if it's outside, you have a little bit more wiggle room. So my next tip is something that I feel like not everyone feels, but this is really how Michael and I feel. We have picked a date from the beginning and we are keeping it. We are not moving it out further. If something crazy happens, we are keeping it. Now, if we have to change things along the way, like we have to invite less people or there's stricter regulations, we're obviously going to pay attention to that, but we are not changing our date. We are not postponing. He and I are ready to be married, and that's kind of what the whole day is about, and I don't want to forget that. So if it comes up and we have to just get married at the courthouse, he and I, and of course our photographer, then that's what we're gonna do. We don't want to move the date. It kind of actually helps anxiety knowing that that's not an option for us, because then it kind of closes the doors to certain things, and I don't have to think about ordering more invitations, making sure a date is good with everyone else for all the vendors and everything. So we have picked a date, and we have kind of told some of our vendors, look, we're not planning on moving this date. This is the date. If we have to have less guests, we'll do that. If we have to end up not even having it, we'll just do that, but I don't think it will get to that point. That's what we're gonna do, because we are just ready to get married. So I do suggest maybe keeping your date, because it kind of helps the anxiety of having to change everything, and you get to be with your person sooner. But I know it is really important for most people to have all your friends and family there, and I agree that that's super important, but he and I are just ready to become one, ready to get married, so we ain't budging on the date. And my last tip for planning a wedding during a pandemic is just trust Jesus. I mean, honestly, the timing of him is perfect. There's a reason that you and I are planning a wedding during a pandemic, and there's going to be certain blessings that actually come along with that. And so really try to pay attention to that instead of focusing on everything that you can't have, and focus on everything that you're receiving, because it is during a crazy time. And you'll probably be able to look back and say like, wow, I can't believe we literally got married during a pandemic. So just try to trust God in the process and know that things will happen, but try to look at them as a blessing instead of a curse. So as of now, those are all my wedding planning tips. I also hope you guys got to see a little bit more of the process that Michael and I are going through, but we just really are enjoying it. Again, trying to focus on the positive, and I really hope some of these tips inspired you guys to focus on the positive as well. And if you guys have any more questions or just want to know any other things about the wedding, go ahead and comment below and ask me. If you are enjoying this wedding series as much as I am, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up to let me know, and more wedding series videos are going to be coming. And maybe even my wedding dress try-on video is going to be coming pretty dang soon. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.